There are moments in
I can't
life
stay
when
here any
everything you
longer.
thought you knew gets
It's now or
packed
never.
into a single worn leather satchel and thrown out the door with you. For Zara, that moment happened on a Wednesday morning when the sun wasn't even fully awake yet. She stood outside the gates of Iron Ridge Settlement with nothing but that satchel, the clothes on her back, and a secret she'd kept hidden for 4 years. A single gold coin pressed against her palm inside her clenched fist. The coin her grandmother had given her the night before she died. The last thing that proved someone in this world had once loved her. Behind those stone gates lived 19 years of memories. 19 years of trying to be orc enough, strong enough, fierce enough, angry enough. Turned out 19 years of trying wasn't the same as 19 years of succeeding. "You're too gentle, Zara." Those had been her father's words. Not cruel, just factual, the way you'd comment on weather. "The settlement needs warriors. You flinch when we slaughter meat. You hesitate in combat drills. You're a liability." Her mother hadn't said anything, just looked away. That silence hurt worse than any words could. Zara was 5'8", which made her short for an orc woman. Her skin was the green of summer grass instead of the deep emerald of proper orc warriors. Her tusks were small, barely visible when her mouth was closed. And worst of all, she had this terrible habit of caring about things, about injured animals, about fairness, about people's feelings. In an orc settlement where strength meant everything and sentiment meant weakness, Zara was basically worthless. So they did what settlements do with worthless things. They cut them loose. The coin in her hand was warm now from her body heat. She opened her palm and looked at it. One side showed the symbol of her grandmother's birth clan, two crossed hammers under a crescent moon. The other side was just the moon itself, large and round and watching. "Keep this safe, little star," grandmother had whispered that night. Her massive hand, a hand that had broken enemies and held babies with equal skill, pressing the coin into Zara's much smaller palm. Not for what it's worth in gold, but for what it's worth in choices. One day you'll need to choose between who they want you to be and who you actually are. When that day comes, this will help you choose right. Zara had been 16 then. She hadn't understood. Now, standing alone on a dirt road with nowhere to go and no one waiting for her, she understood perfectly. The nearest human town was 4 days' walk south. Orcs didn't go to human towns. Humans didn't welcome orcs. That was just how the world worked. Had worked for as long as anyone could remember. Orcs stayed in the mountains and highlands. Humans stayed in their valleys and farmlands. Everyone was safer that way, except Zara didn't have anywhere else to go. So she walked. 4 days on dusty roads, eating berries and sleeping under trees. 4 days of blisters and doubt, and that special kind of loneliness that comes from being rejected by the only family you've ever known. 4 days of clutching that gold coin so hard it left impressions in her palm. On the fourth evening, she saw it. Willowbrook, a human town that looked like someone had taken the idea of picturesque and built an entire settlement around it. Thatched roofs, cobblestone streets, a church with a bell tower. Gardens with actual flowers planted just for beauty, not food. It was so human it almost hurt to look at. Zara stood at the edge of town as the sun set, trying to decide if walking into a human town alone was the bravest or stupidest thing she'd ever done. Probably both. Definitely both. A child saw her first, a little human boy with brown hair, maybe 7 years old, who was playing with a stick near the road. The boy looked up, saw Zara's green skin and tusks, and screamed like he'd seen death itself. The father came running, saw Zara, grabbed the child, and ran back toward the houses, shouting something Zara couldn't quite make out, but definitely wasn't welcome a stranger. "Let me show you to the inn." By the time Zara reached the main street, every door was closed and every window had faces pressed against it. Watching, judging, frightened. She was a monster in their story, the thing mothers warned children about. The enemy soldiers fought against in wars nobody quite remembered starting. Zara wanted to turn around, wanted to walk back into the wilderness and just keep walking until she found somewhere that didn't exist. But her feet hurt and her stomach was empty, and pride was a luxury she couldn't afford anymore. So she walked until she found what looked like a tavern, a wooden sign hanging outside with a painted mug on it. The Dancing Goat. Subtle. Inside, the conversation died the instant she ducked through the doorway. And she did have to duck, even though she was short for an orc. Human buildings were built for human heights. 15 people in the tavern. 15 sets of eyes locked on her. 15 sets of hands moving slowly toward belt knives and concealed weapons. "We don't serve your kind here." The voice came from behind the bar. A woman, probably in her 50s, with silver-streaked hair pulled back in a practical bun and arms that suggested she'd thrown out more than a few troublemakers in her time. This was Vera. Zara would learn her name later. Right now, she was just another human who'd already decided what Zara was before hearing a single word from her mouth. "I'm not here for trouble," Zara said. Her voice came out smaller than she wanted. I need a place to stay. Just for a night. I can pay." "Pay with what? Stolen gold?" Some man in the corner. "Helpful." "No, my own gold." Zara pulled out the coin, held it up so the firelight caught it. "One gold coin. Real. Not stolen. It was my grandmother's." Vera squinted at the coin, then at Zara, then back at the coin. "That's orc gold," Vera said. "I'm an orc," Zara replied. Not defensive, just tired. "One gold coin won't buy you a room here. Won't buy you welcome either." Something in Zara's chest cracked then. Not broke, just cracked, like ice on a pond when spring comes. "Then what will it buy me?" she asked. "Anything?" Vera stared at her for a long moment. Then she did something unexpected. She laughed. Not a nice laugh. The kind of laugh people make when life is being absurd and mean in equal measure. "There's a cottage," Vera said slowly, "at the edge of town. South side. Been abandoned for, 7 years now. Since old Henrik died. No heirs, no buyers. Just sitting there, falling apart." "Why won't anyone buy it?" Zara asked. "Because it's practically rubble," Vera said. "Roof leaks, walls are sagging, floors got holes. It's not a house anymore. It's a suggestion of what a house used to be." "I'll take it," Zara said. The tavern went quiet again. "You don't understand," Vera started. "I understand perfectly." Zara placed the gold coin on the bar. It made a small sound, but in that silent room it might as well have been thunder. "One gold coin for the cottage. That's what you offered. I'm accepting." "I didn't offer anything. I was explaining why your gold wasn't worth—" "You said one gold coin won't buy welcome, but you also said there's a cottage that nobody wants, so I'm buying that instead. That's fair trade." Vera looked at the coin, looked at Zara. Then she did something that would change both their lives, though neither of them knew it yet. She picked up the coin. "Fine," Vera said. "The cottage is yours, but don't come crying to me when it collapses on your head. And don't expect the rest of this town to suddenly want orc neighbors just because you overpaid for rubble." Zara's hand was empty now. The coin was gone. The last piece of her grandmother, the last piece of her old life, traded for 4 broken walls and a roof with more holes than shingles. She should have felt regret, should have felt like she'd made a terrible mistake. Instead, she felt something she hadn't felt in 4 days of walking. Hope. The cottage was exactly as bad as advertised. Worse, actually. Vera had been generous calling it 4 walls. It was more like 3 walls and a prayer. The roof sagged in the middle like a tired horse. The front door hung on one hinge. 2 windows were completely broken, and the third had cracks spreading through the glass like a frozen spiderweb. Inside, the wooden floor had holes you could see through to the dirt below. The fireplace was full of old bird nests. Every surface was covered in 7 years of dust, leaves, and things Zara preferred not to identify. But it had walls. A roof, however, questionable. 4 corners that made a space that was hers. Zara set her satchel down in the driest corner she could find and sat on the floor, carefully testing each board first. Then, alone in her broken cottage in a town that feared her, she allowed herself exactly 5 minutes to cry. Not the loud orc cry of mourning that shook mountains, the quiet human kind that's just tears and shaking shoulders, and the overwhelming weight of being 19 years old with no family and no idea what comes next. 5 minutes. That's all she allowed herself. Then she wiped her face with her palms, took a breath that sounded steadier than she felt, and looked around her new home. "Okay, grandmother," she whispered to the empty room. "You said the coin would help me choose, right? I chose this. So now I guess we find out if I chose well." The cottage didn't answer. Cottages don't. But the last light of sunset came through one of the broken windows and touched the wall where she sat. And for just a moment, Zara let herself believe that was her grandmother saying she'd done just fine. Morning came with all the grace of a hammer to the head. Zara woke up stiff, cold, and with a spider crawling across her hand. She yelped, a very un-orc-like sound, and brushed it away, then immediately felt bad for scaring the spider. It was just trying to live its life, same as her. First order of business, assess the damage in daylight. The cottage looked worse in the morning. That special kind of worse where you realize all your optimistic evening thoughts were lies your brain told you to get through the night. The roof had at least 9 distinct holes she could see. One wall had a crack running floor to ceiling. The back door wasn't just broken, it was missing entirely. Just an empty door frame leading to an overgrown garden. Zara walked through each room, cataloging problems. Broken floorboards, crumbling plaster, a staircase that led to a second floor she was genuinely afraid to trust with her weight. The place needed work, a lot of work, more work than one person could possibly do alone, especially when that person had exactly zero experience in carpentry, masonry, or any practical building skill. She was standing in what used to be a kitchen, staring at a counter that was pulling away from the wall at an alarming angle when she heard it. Footsteps outside, coming closer. Zara's body went still. Orc instinct. When you're uncertain in unfamiliar territory, you don't move until you know if the footsteps belong to friend or threat. A knock on the broken door frame. Not on a door since there wasn't one. Just knuckles rapping on wood. Hello? Are you home? Male voice. Young, human. Zara moved to where she could see the doorway without fully exposing herself. A young human man stood there, maybe 22 or 23, with blonde hair that looked like he'd tried to comb it and given up halfway through. He wore work clothes, simple shirt, worn trousers, leather, tool belt. His hands had the calluses that came from working with wood. He was also staring directly at where Zara was standing. So much for stealth. I know you're there, he said, not unkindly. I can see your shadow. And also, the whole town is talking about the orc who bought old Henrik's place for a single gold coin. You're kind of the only topic of conversation this morning. Zara stepped into view, kept her hands visible and open, non-threatening as possible. The man didn't run, didn't reach for a weapon. He just looked at her with the assessing gaze of someone evaluating a problem he might be able to fix. I'm Finn, he said. I'm a carpenter. Well, journeyman carpenter. But I've been doing it for 7 years, so I'm pretty decent at the actual carpentry part, even if the title hasn't caught up yet. I'm Zara. Her voice came out wary. Why are you here? Because I walked past this place this morning and saw you'd moved in. And then I thought about all the work this cottage needs. And then I thought about how you're probably about to have a very bad time trying to fix it alone. He gestured at the building. No offense, but this cottage is a disaster. You're going to need help. I don't have money for help. I spent my last gold on the cottage. I didn't ask for money. Zara stared at him. Why would you help me for free? Finn shrugged. Because you need help, and because I have time, and because, he paused, choosing words, because my mentor, Willem, he's the old carpenter who taught me everything. He saw you walk into town yesterday, and he told me something this morning that I think is probably true. What did he tell you? He said that orc girl walked 4 days to get here with nothing but a bag and desperation. She didn't come to raid or fight or cause trouble. She came because she had nowhere else to go. And now she's here and people are already treating her like a monster. And she hasn't done a single monstrous thing. Finn met Zara's eyes. He said the true measure of a town is how it treats strangers who have nothing. And right now, Willowbrook is failing that measure pretty badly. So, you're here out of guilt. I'm here because it's the right thing to do, Finn said. He stepped through the door frame, careful of the broken boards. Also because this cottage is so badly damaged, it's kind of personally offensive to me as a carpenter. Like the previous owner really stopped caring about maintenance around, I'd say 15 years ago. Despite everything, Zara almost smiled. It's in bad shape. It's in catastrophic shape, but catastrophic can be fixed. It just takes time, materials, and someone who knows which end of a hammer to hold. He looked around the kitchen. First priority, roof. You can live with bad floors and missing doors, but if water keeps getting in, nothing else will matter. We'll need to patch those holes before the next rain. We? Zara asked carefully. Finn looked at her like the question was strange. Well, yeah, you can't do roof work alone. It's a two-person job minimum. So, we. And just like that, with no fanfare or dramatic moment, Zara had her first ally in Willowbrook. Over the next 3 weeks, Finn came to the cottage every morning after his work with Willem was done. He brought tools, scraps of wood, old shingles salvaged from other projects. He taught Zara how to measure twice and cut once, how to test a board for rot, how to drive a nail so it held instead of splitting the wood. They started with the roof, hours in the summer sun, balancing on sagging beams, patching holes one at a time. Zara learned that carpentry required a kind of precision she'd never needed before. Orc training was about strength and instinct. This was about planning and care. You're good at this, Finn said on the fourth day, watching Zara nail a new board into place with focused determination. I'm just doing what you showed me. Yeah, but you're actually listening. You'd be surprised how many people don't. They think they already know everything, or they rush, or they don't care about doing it right. He handed her another nail. You care, I can tell. Caring was a weakness in my settlement, Zara said before she could stop herself. Finn was quiet for a moment. Then, your settlement was wrong. It was such a simple sentence, 4 words, but Zara felt something shift in her chest when she heard them, because nobody had ever said that before. Nobody had ever suggested that maybe the settlement's values were the problem, not her inability to meet them. Tell me about orc settlements, Finn said as they worked. Not nosy, just curious. I don't actually know much, just what people say, and I'm guessing most of that is wrong. So Zara told him about how settlements were organized around strength and honor, how warriors were respected and weakness was exiled, how she'd spent 19 years trying to be something she wasn't because being herself wasn't acceptable. Sounds exhausting, Finn said. It was. Is it better here? Zara looked around at her broken cottage, at the town that feared her, at the human carpenter who was helping her for no reason except that it was right. I don't know yet, she said honestly. Ask me again when the roof is finished. Finn grinned. Deal. They worked in comfortable silence after that. The sound of hammers and sawing wood filling the space where awkward conversation might have been. By the end of the 3rd week, the roof was patched. Not perfect, but functional. Water would stay out. That was a victory. Next up, Finn said, wiping sweat from his forehead, we fix those floors. And maybe do something about the missing back door, unless you like having raccoons as roommates. I found 4 raccoons in the kitchen yesterday, Zara admitted. See? Home invasion. We need that door. Finn, Zara set down her hammer. Why are you really doing this? He looked at her for a long moment. You want the honest answer? Always. Because when you walked into Vera's tavern, you could have gotten angry, could have threatened people, made demands, acted like the monster they expected. But you didn't. You just asked quietly if there was anywhere you could stay. And when she insulted you, you didn't insult back. You just endured it. And then you traded something that obviously meant a lot to you for a cottage everyone else thought was worthless. He shrugged. That told me more about who you are than any amount of orc or human labels ever could. I'm not brave, Zara said softly. I was just desperate. Sometimes those are the same thing. A month passed, then another. The cottage slowly transformed from catastrophic to merely concerning. Floors were repaired. The back door was hung, not perfectly, but it closed, and that was progress. Windows were patched or replaced, but more than the cottage was changing. Zara and Finn developed a rhythm. He'd arrive mid-morning, they'd work until afternoon, breaking for lunch that Zara would prepare. Simple food, orc-style cooking that Finn approached with cautious curiosity and ended up actually enjoying. This is good, he said the first time she made roasted root vegetables with herbs she'd found growing wild. Why does everyone act like orc food is scary? Because people fear what they don't understand, Zara said, and they've decided they don't need to understand orcs. Their loss. This is better than half the stuff at the tavern. They talked while they worked, about everything and nothing. Finn told her about growing up in Willowbrook, about learning carpentry from Willem, about his parents who died when he was 17, and the responsibility he felt to honor their memory by being useful. Zara told him about orc traditions, about the way settlements sang morning songs that could last for hours, about how every orc had a personal totem animal. Hers had been a deer, which her father said proved she should have been born human. About her grandmother, who'd been the only one who understood that strength came in different forms. She sounds wise, Finn said. She was. That's why she gave me the coin. She knew I'd need it to choose freedom. And did you? Choose freedom? Zara looked around at the cottage they'd been building together. I'm starting to think I chose possibility, which might be better. Somewhere in the fourth month, things shifted. Not dramatically, not with a single moment you could point to, but gradually like seasons changing. It started with small things. The way Finn's hand would brush hers when passing tools. How Zara found herself watching him work, appreciating the careful precision in his movements. The way conversations grew longer, work sessions stretched later, and goodbyes at the door became increasingly reluctant. One evening as the sun set and they finally called it a day, Finn didn't leave immediately. Can I ask you something? He said. Always. Do you ever regret it, trading the coin, your grandmother's coin? Zara thought about that. I thought I would. The first few nights, I'd wake up and reach for it before remembering it was gone. But now, she gestured at the cottage. Now I think grandmother would approve. She didn't give me that coin to keep forever. She gave it to me to use when I needed it most. And I did. You turned it into something permanent, Finn said. Something real. We turned it into something real, Zara corrected. I couldn't have done this without you. Sure you could. Would have just taken longer and involved more creative cursing in Orcish. She laughed, a real laugh, the kind that came from somewhere genuine. Finn smiled at the sound. You should laugh more, he said. It suits you. Orcs don't laugh much. It's seen as weak. Yeah, you've mentioned your settlement had a lot of opinions about what makes someone weak. He turned to face her fully. Can I tell you what I think is weak? What? Being so afraid of seeming vulnerable that you never let yourself feel anything real. That's weak. What you did, leaving everything, starting over, building this place, that's strength. Zara's breath caught. Nobody had ever called her strong before. Not like this, not in a way that felt true. Finn, I know this is probably inappropriate timing, he interrupted himself. We're standing in a half-finished cottage. You're covered in sawdust. I'm covered in sawdust. This should probably wait until a more romantic moment. What should wait? He met her eyes. Me telling you that somewhere between repairing your roof and teaching you to use a plane, I stopped just seeing you as someone who needed help and started seeing you as you. Zara, who makes terrible jokes while hammering, who apologizes to insects, who talks to the cottage when she thinks I'm not listening, who's braver than anyone I've ever met. The air in the room felt different, charged like before a summer storm. Your people hate my people, Zara said softly. Some of them do, not all. Your people would never accept, I don't care. Simple, direct. I care about you, not your species. You, Zara. Zara's hands were shaking. This is a bad idea. Probably. We're from different worlds. We're standing in a cottage we built together. Seems like we've already figured out how to share a world. Finn, you don't have to say anything, he said quickly. I just needed you to know that you're not alone here. And not just because I'm helping with carpentry, but because I care. A lot. And if that makes things awkward, I apologize, and I'll still come help with the cottage because I said I would, but I couldn't keep. Zara kissed him. Not dramatically, not like in stories, just a simple pressing of lips to lips, her hand coming up to touch his face, his sharp intake of breath against her mouth. When she pulled back, they were both shaking slightly. I thought I was going to have to monologue for another 10 minutes, Finn said shakily. You talk too much when you're nervous, Zara replied. Her heart was doing things hearts absolutely should not do, racing and fluttering and generally being inconvenient. Are we? Finn seemed to have lost his ability to form complete sentences. I don't know what this is, Zara said honestly. But I know I wake up looking forward to seeing you. I know I care what you think. I know that when you leave in the evenings, the cottage feels emptier than it should. She paused. So if that means something, then yes, this is something. Something good? He asked hopefully. Something terrifying and potentially very stupid and definitely going to cause problems. She smiled. So yes, something good. But they stood there in the fading light, green hand, inhuman hand, both of them grinning like idiots who just made possibly the best and worst decision of their lives. Outside, Willowbrook continued on, unaware that inside a rebuilt cottage at the edge of town, the world had just changed again. For 4 weeks, they existed in a bubble of deliberate ignorance, working on the cottage, stealing moments, learning each other in the way new couples do, the small discoveries that feel profound. The way Finn hummed while working, how Zara organized tools in order of size because chaos offended her sense of order. But bubbles don't last, they never do. The trouble started, as trouble often does, at the tavern. Vera found Zara walking through the market one morning. You need to come with me, she said without preamble. No greeting, just urgency. What's wrong? Just come now. At the Dancing Goat, a crowd had gathered. Angry crowd, raised voices. And in the center of it, trying to remain calm while surrounded by hostile humans, was Finn. Seen them together, someone was saying, working on that cottage, all day, every day, alone. So he's helping a neighbor, Willem's voice. The old carpenter had positioned himself next to Finn, smaller and frailer, but there. Nothing wrong with that. She's not a neighbor. She's an orc. She's a person, Finn said firmly. And she needed help, so I helped. That's what decent people do. Decent people don't consort with monsters. Zara pushed through the crowd. People recoiled from her, creating space. Stop, she said. Her voice came out hard, orc hard, the voice her father had wanted her to have all along. If you have a problem with me, address it to me. Don't harass Finn for being a better person than any of you. Oh, it speaks, someone muttered. She speaks, Zara corrected. And she pays for her property, bothers no one, and has done nothing to deserve this except exist. So what exactly is your problem? A man stepped forward, middle-aged, weathered face, the look of someone used to being respected. My problem is, we don't want your kind here. Bad enough you moved in. Now you're seducing one of our young men. Seducing? Finn's voice was sharp. Are you serious? Zara hasn't. We've seen how you look at her, boy. Don't think we haven't noticed. And if I do look at her? Finn stepped forward, angry now. If I care about her? What then? You going to exile me too? For the crime of seeing past skin color to actual character? The crowd shifted uncomfortably. This was getting too real, too fast. Zara touched Finn's arm gently. Don't. Don't what? Don't defend you? Don't point out that you've been nothing but kind since arriving and they're treating you like an enemy for existing? Don't make yourself a target for me. Too late. He turned to face the crowd fully. Zara is my friend, more than my friend. And if you have a problem with that, fine. But leave her out of it. She came here with nothing, bought a piece of property nobody wanted, and has kept to herself. She's been a better neighbor than half of you. Finn, stop, Zara tried. And you know what? I do care about her. A lot. And if that makes you uncomfortable, then maybe you should examine why it bothers you so much that someone different might deserve happiness too. The silence that followed was heavy, dangerous. Then Vera spoke up. Boy's got a point. Everyone turned to look at her. What? Vera said defensively. I'm not saying I like having an orc in town. I'm saying she's paid her dues, kept her head down, and hasn't caused trouble. More than I can say for some humans I know. She looked pointedly at a few men in the crowd who suddenly found the floor very interesting. If Finn wants to help her rebuild that death trap cottage, that's his choice. And unless she breaks a law, we've got no grounds to force her out. That's how property rights work. This is wrong, someone said, but the conviction was fading. Maybe, Vera acknowledged, but it's not illegal. And we're a town of laws, aren't we? Or are we a mob that drives out people we don't like? The crowd began to disperse, slowly, reluctantly, but they left. Finn was breathing hard, anger still radiating from him. Zara's hand was still on his arm. You shouldn't have done that, she said softly. Had to. They'll make your life difficult now. Let them. I'm not backing down from this. From you. Willem approached, moving slowly. That was either very brave or very stupid, boy. Both, probably, Finn admitted. The old man looked at Zara. You're the orc. I am. Finn's told me about you, about the work you're doing, about... Willem paused. About who you are, not what you are. He tapped his cane against the floor 3 times. I'm old. I've seen a lot. And I've learned that the loudest fears are usually about the wrongest things. You're not what they think you are. Thank you, Zara said quietly. Don't thank me yet. This town's going to make things hard for both of you now. Question is, are you ready for that? Zara and Finn looked at each other. Yes, they said together. Willem nodded. Then you might actually have a chance. Fools who know they're fools and are braver than wise people who won't take risks. He shuffled off, leaving them standing in the now empty tavern with Vera, who was wiping down the bar like nothing had happened. So, Vera said without looking up. You two an item then? Yes, Finn said simply. Vera set down a glass with more force than necessary. Well, that's going to be a mess. I know, Zara said. People aren't going to like it. I know. They're definitely going to talk. I know. Vera finally looked up. But you're doing it anyway. Yes. Something that might have been approval flickered across Vera's face. Then you're both fools. Lucky for you, I like fools. They're more interesting than cowards. She pulled out 2 glasses, poured something amber. Drink. You're going to need it for what comes next. What came next was exactly what Vera predicted. Talk, rumors, disapproving looks, mothers pulling children to the other side of the street when Zara walked by, vendors charging her extra at the market, small cruelties that didn't break laws but broke spirit. And through it all, Finn stayed. He walked beside her through the market, deflecting comments, sat with her at the tavern when Vera allowed them inside, worked on the cottage with renewed determination, as if every wall they reinforced was also reinforcing their right to be together. You could walk away, Zara said one evening as they ate dinner in the now functional kitchen. You could say it was just carpentry work. They'd forgive you. I could, Finn agreed, but I won't. Why not? This isn't making your life easier. Easy isn't the same as right. He reached across the table, took her hand, and this feels right. You feel right, so let them talk. Zara turned his hand over, studying the calluses and scars from years of woodworking. Human hands, different from hers, but somehow they fit together. In orc settlements, she said softly, there's this belief that you can tell everything about a person from their hands, what they've worked at, what they value. My father's hands were scarred from weapons and warfare. My grandmother's hands were scarred from building and creating. She looked up at him. Your hands are like my grandmother's. Is that good? It's everything. The cottage was nearly finished when Torin arrived. Zara was replacing a window pane, carefully the way Finn had taught her when she heard it. Footsteps. Heavy ones. Orc ones. She knew who it was before turning around. Would know that particular rhythm anywhere. The way he walked, like the ground should be grateful he was stepping on it. Hello, little sister. Torin stood in what was now a proper doorway, having to duck even more than Zara did. He was 6'10" of pure warrior muscle, with scars that told stories and eyes that had seen too many battles. His skin was the deep emerald that marked him as proper orc bloodline. He wore traditional settlement armor, boiled leather and bronze plates. He looked exactly like what humans feared when they thought of orcs. Torin, Zara set down the glass carefully. How did you find me? Tracked you, obviously. He stepped inside, looking around the cottage with evident surprise. This is not what I expected. What did you expect? Dead body, starvation, you begging to come home. He picked up one of Finn's tools, examining it. Not this, not you building something. I'm not coming back, Zara said flatly. Father sent me to bring you home. Then tell Father his message was received and rejected. Torin set down the tool. It's not that simple. It's exactly that simple. I'm not settlement anymore. I'm not welcome. You made that clear when you threw me out. We exiled you because you weren't strong enough. No, you exiled me because I wasn't cruel enough, because I felt things, because I cared. Zara's hands were shaking, but her voice stayed steady. And you know what? You were right. I'm not an orc by your definition, but I'm something better. I'm myself. And what is that? Torrin gestured around. A builder? In human lands? With humans? Yes. That's not strength, Zara. That's surrender. Is it? Zara stepped forward. I walked 4 days alone, bought this cottage with the last valuable thing I owned, rebuilt it from ruins, made a life in a place that didn't want me, all while carrying everything I am without apology. She met his eyes. That sounds pretty strong to me. Just a different kind of strong than you understand. Torrin was quiet for a long moment. There's a human, the rumor said there's a human man. His name is Finn. You're involved with a human. I am. Don't! Zara's voice went hard. Don't you dare. You don't get to judge my choices when you threw me away like I was defective. Finn saw me, helped me, stood beside me when I had nothing and no one. So yes, I'm involved with him. And it's none of your business. It's the settlement's business. I'm not settlement. The words echoed in the small cottage. You made sure of that, so you don't get a say in my life anymore. Footsteps outside. Both orcs turned. Finn stood in the doorway, tool belt on, clearly just arrived from Willems. He took in the scene immediately, the giant orc warrior, Zara's defensive posture, the tension thick enough to cut. Is there a problem? Finn asked. Calm, but his hand had moved unconsciously to the hammer on his belt. Torrin looked at him, then at Zara, then back to Finn. You're the human, he said. I'm Finn, and you're trespassing. This is Zara's home. I can't trespass in my sister's home. Actually, Finn said evenly, this is Zara's home. And if she wants you here, you stay. If she doesn't, you leave. That's how property rights work. The two men stared at each other, one nearly a foot taller and twice as wide, the other armed only with carpentry tools and audacity. Finn, Zara said carefully, this is my brother Torrin. He was just leaving. Was I? Torrin challenged. Yes. Zara stepped between them. You delivered your message. I declined. Now you can go home and tell Father I'm alive, I'm well, and I'm exactly where I choose to be. Torrin looked at her for a long moment. He won't accept this. He'll have to. I'm not asking permission. I'm not bound by settlement rules anymore. I'm free, and I'm using that freedom to build a life here, with people who actually want me around. Something shifted in Torrin's expression. Not quite approval, but maybe understanding, or the beginning of it. You've changed, he said quietly. No, I've just stopped pretending to be what you wanted me to be. He nodded slowly, then he did something unexpected. He pulled something from his pack, a small cloth bundle, and handed it to Zara. Grandmother's necklace, from her personal effects. Father was going to burn it, but I thought, you should have it. Zara unwrapped the cloth with shaking hands. Inside was a simple leather cord with a carved wooden deer, her totem, the one she'd been forbidden from displaying because deer weren't fierce enough. Torrin, I don't agree with your choices, he said gruffly, but grandmother always said you were stronger than we gave you credit for. Maybe she was right. He looked at Finn. You, human. If you hurt her, I'll come back, and you won't enjoy it. If I hurt her, I'll deserve it, Finn replied evenly. Torrin almost smiled, almost. Then he turned and walked out, disappearing down the road as suddenly as he'd arrived. Zara stood holding the necklace, tears streaming down her face. Finn came to her side immediately. Are you okay? He brought my grandmother's necklace. He saved it for me. She looked at the carved deer. That means he doesn't completely hate me. That means maybe I didn't lose all of my family. Finn pulled her into a hug. She cried against his shoulder while he held her, this human man who had somehow become her home in ways that had nothing to do with walls and roofs. The next month tested them in ways both expected and not. Someone left a dead crow on their doorstep with a note. Go back where you belong. Someone else, they never figured out who, left a basket of fresh bread with a note that said only, welcome. The town remained divided. Some, like Vera and Willem, grudgingly accepted the situation. Others continued to mutter and glare and make life difficult in small ways that were hard to prove but impossible to ignore. But the cottage was finished, actually finished. Solid walls, new roof, doors that closed and locked, windows that let in light without letting in weather. The garden Zara had started was growing, wild vegetables and herbs. She'd begun selling produce at the market, and people bought it, even if they wouldn't look her in the eye while doing so. One evening, as they sat on the front porch watching the sunset, Finn said, "I have something to tell you." Zara's stomach dropped. "That sounds ominous." "Not ominous, just important." He took her hand. "I talked to Willem. He's officially making me a master carpenter, not a journeyman anymore, which means I can take on my own clients and projects." "That's wonderful." "And it is, but it also means," he paused, "it means I need to decide where I'm going to base my work, where I'm going to live." Zara's heart was doing strange things again. "And where is that?" "I was hoping," he looked at her, "I was hoping here, if you'd have me. Not just visiting to help build, but actually living here. With you." The world went very quiet. "You want to live with me?" Zara said slowly. "Officially, despite everything." "Because of everything. Because you're the person I want to wake up next to. Because this cottage feels more like home than anywhere I've ever been." He stopped, then pushed through. "Because I love you, and I'm tired of pretending that's complicated when it's actually the simplest thing in my life." Zara couldn't breathe, couldn't think, could only feel the enormity of what he was offering. Not just cohabitation, but partnership. Public, acknowledged in the face of everyone partnership. "They'll never fully accept us," she warned. "Some will, some won't. That's their choice. This is ours. Your life would be easier without me. My life would be emptier without you, and I don't want empty." Zara looked at this human man who'd shown up months ago offering to fix her roof and had somehow fixed something much deeper instead. Who'd stood beside her through every difficulty, who'd seen her at her lowest and stayed anyway. "I love you too," she said, the first time she'd said it out loud. And yes, yes, you can stay. Yes, I want you here. Yes to all of it." He kissed her then, there on the porch of the cottage they built together, as the sun set over Willowbrook and the world continued spinning, and nothing and everything changed at once. 3 years later, the cottage had become something more than just a cottage. Word had spread slowly, cautiously, about the orc woman and human man who'd built a life together. Some people came out of curiosity, others came because they needed carpentry work and heard Finn was skilled. A few came because they were also outsiders who'd heard there was a place that didn't judge. Zara had started a garden that provided vegetables for half the town. Finn had built furniture that people actually wanted to buy. Vera had become something resembling a friend, though she'd never admit it directly. Willem visited weekly, always pretending he couldn't hear when they thanked him for his early support. Torrin had come 3 more times. The visits were awkward, but not hostile. He brought news from the settlement. Their father had died. Leadership passed to a cousin. Things were changing slowly. He never explicitly apologized, but he'd helped Finn build a new workshop without being asked, and that spoke louder than words. And then came the night that changed everything again. They were sitting on that same porch, a ritual now, when Finn pulled out something from his pocket, a small wooden box he'd carved himself. "What's this?" Zara asked. "Open it." Inside was a ring, simple iron band with a small green stone embedded in it. Zara stared at it, then at Finn, then back at the ring. "I know we can't officially marry," Finn said quickly. "No law would recognize it. No church would perform the ceremony. But I don't care about official. I care about us. About making a promise to you that I intend to keep for the rest of my life." "Finn, you don't have to—" "Yes," Zara interrupted. "Obviously, yes." He stopped mid-sentence. "What?" "Yes." She took the ring from the box, slipped it onto her finger. It fit perfectly. Of course it did. He'd probably been planning this for months. "You think I came this far, built this life, stood through all this trouble, just to say no when you finally asked me to make it permanent?" "I was prepared for a longer conversation," he admitted. "We've been having that conversation for 3 years. Every day we choose to be together is part of that conversation. This is just making it official in the way that matters. Between us." They sat there, hands linked, new ring catching the fading light. Your family will never approve, Zara said softly. Your family exiled you. The town will gossip. The town already gossips. This won't be easy. Nothing worth having is, Zara laughed, that real laugh that came from deep in her chest. We're idiots. Absolutely. Certified fools. But we're fools together. That's got to count for something. The next day they made it public, not with fanfare or ceremony, just by existing together openly, ring visible, making no apologies and asking no permission. Some people were horrified, some were supportive. Most were somewhere in between, uncertain, uncomfortable, but gradually accepting because what else could they do? The law had been followed, property rights respected, no actual rules broken except the unwritten ones about who should love whom. Vera threw them an unofficial celebration at the tavern. Not a wedding, she announced to anyone who'd listen. Just a commitment party or whatever. Point is, there's food and drink, and if you've got a problem with it, there's the door. Willem gave them a set of matching work gloves. Practical, he said when anyone asked. What's that? I can't hear you. The town baker, a woman named Mira, who'd always been kind in quiet ways, made them a cake with green and brown frosting. Nature colors, she said diplomatically, could mean anything. It was messy and imperfect and absolutely nothing like a real wedding. It was perfect. That night, back in their cottage, Zara looked at the ring on her finger, then at the necklace with the wooden deer that hung around her neck, then at Finn, who was trying to figure out how to store all the leftover cake. My grandmother's coin bought this cottage, she said, but I think it bought more than that. I think it bought possibility. The possibility of becoming who I actually am instead of who I was supposed to be. Your grandmother sounds like she knew exactly what she was doing, Finn said. She always did. Zara touched the wooden deer. She told me the coin would help me choose right, and it did. It led me here, to you, to this life, to choosing myself. And was it worth it, Finn asked, trading your last connection to her? I didn't trade my connection to her. I honored it. Zara looked at him. She gave me the coin so I could be free, and I used it to buy my freedom. That's exactly what she wanted. Finn came to stand beside her at the window. Outside, Willowbrook continued its evening routine. Lights in windows, smoke from chimneys. The ordinary life of an ordinary town that had, despite itself, learned to make room for something extraordinary. You know what the best part is? Zara said. What? This cottage isn't just where I live. It's proof that things can be rebuilt, that what's broken can become whole again, that sometimes the things everyone else gives up on are exactly the things worth saving. Are we still talking about the cottage? We're always talking about the cottage. She turned to him, and also never just talking about the cottage. Finn pulled her close. I love you. You know that, right? Even when I forget to say it. Even when I'm distracted by sawdust and carpentry, I love you. I know. I love you too. They stood there, green skin and pink skin, orc and human, two people who weren't supposed to work but did anyway. Two people who'd taken something broken and made it beautiful. 5 years after buying the cottage, Zara and Finn stood in front of it, watching a young orc woman approach nervously. She was maybe 18, with skin the color of new leaves and small tusks. She carried a worn bag and looked like she'd walked for days. She looked like Zara had looked 5 years ago. I heard, the young orc said quietly, that there's a place here, where orcs can live, where someone might understand. Zara and Finn exchanged glances. There is, Zara said gently. Come inside. We'll get you something to eat, and then we'll figure out next steps. The young orc's eyes filled with tears. Just like that. You'll help me. Just like that. Zara held open the door. I was you once, someone helped me, now I help you. That's how it works. As the young orc stepped inside, looking around at the solid walls and functional rooms with wonder, Finn whispered to Zara, we're going to need to build an addition. Probably several, Zara agreed. This is going to get complicated. It already is complicated. Good, Finn said, taking her hand. I like complicated. It means we're doing something that matters. Over the next years, the cottage expanded, not just in size, but in purpose. Word continued to spread about the place where different was acceptable, where orcs and humans could exist in the same space. where being yourself was enough. They built additional rooms, a larger workshop, a communal garden, space for others who needed refuge, guidance, or simply a place where they didn't have to hide. Some stayed temporarily, some stayed permanently. All of them added something to the tapestry of this impossible place they were building together. Torn visited once a year now, sometimes brought other orcs, young ones, curious ones who were asking the same questions Zara had asked. Things were changing in the settlements. Slowly, but changing. Vera eventually admitted they were friends. Willem taught carpentry to anyone who wanted to learn, orc or human. Mira baked for everyone. The town of Willowbrook learned gradually that different didn't mean dangerous. That green skin was just skin. That family could be built, not just born. 10 years after buying the cottage, Zara stood in her expanded garden, hands in the soil, and thought about her grandmother. "I hope you can see this," she whispered. "I hope you know your coin bought something bigger than a cottage. It bought a future, a different kind of future, one where I get to be exactly who I am." The garden didn't answer, gardens don't. But the sun was warm on her green skin, and Finn was in the workshop teaching 3 young orcs and 2 human apprentices the proper way to join wood, and laughter came from the cottage where someone was cooking dinner for everyone. And Zara felt something she'd never felt in her settlement. Peace, belonging, home. Not because of where she was born, but because of who she'd chosen to be, because of what she'd built. Because one gold coin and the courage to spend it had bought her more than property. It had bought her freedom, purpose, love, family. And that, Zara thought, touching the ring on her finger and the deer around her neck, was worth every piece of gold in the world.